Okay, let me get this all going. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Well, good evening to everyone there. It's still morning here in the U.S. And thank you for probably giving me the most valuable resource you have, which is your time. So I really appreciate that. This is almost a really good setup for my colleagues at States because we're going from the macro to the granular. And one of my former careers, I did a lot of career services. And so probably a foundational document to kind of wrap your mind around who you are, what it is that you want to do, and what it is that you're applying for is a resume. And I have seen hundreds and hundreds of resumes. And so it's always fun to learn a little bit about each person. And then, of course, along the way, kind of figured out, here are some things to help strengthen the resume. Because the resume is kind of a window into what the applicant is wanting to aspire to. And I've left a QR code here, so if anyone would like my slides later on, you're more than welcome to reach out to me, and I'm more than willing to share them. So without further ado, here we go. So perhaps the primary purpose of a resume is really that first impression for a prospective university. Stavros talked earlier about getting started early with the application, and kind of like with the resume, this is your first attempt to get your mind around what it is that you want to present about yourself. It's a way to organize all of the experiences and skills that you've had into a document. And perhaps it's the first item listed on an application of what you need to provide is that resume. And in this resume, you're starting to help the admissions committee understand, what are your qualifications? What are your experiences? Where did you do these things? And of course, what were some of the outcomes of them? So it all starts with the resume. And so just to kind of give you an idea of what the resume could look like, this is just one example of many. But typically, a resume is a 1 to 2 page document, double-sided, 5 or 6 sections. And it is a summary of your skills and experiences. And for any of you that have ever taken a journalism class or have read newspapers, there's almost this concept of the inverted pyramid. So at the top, you start with the broadest information. And then as you work your way down the document, you funnel it, and it becomes more granular and a little bit more specific. And so the resume in this format is designed as a way to invite the reader to kind of say, okay, here are the general information about myself as an applicant. And then now I'm going to start guiding you through the story about myself, through my skills and experiences and other things that are there. So again, if you reach out to me and want my slides and would like a template of this resume, I'm more than welcome, more than willing to share that with you. So perhaps you've heard about resumes or CVs. Sometimes the terms are used interchangeably, but there are a few key differences between a resume and a CV. So for the programs that I recruit for, which is a Master of Global Affairs and a PhD in Sustainable Development, we do say that as part of the application materials, you can submit either one. So I'm just going to kind of go over some generalities of the differences between the two. Typically, a resume, which we might see more typically on a master's degree program, are a 1 to 2 page document. I would like to recommend that it's 2 pages because considering that you're applying for a graduate program, you probably have a lot of experiences that you want to talk about. And the resume is going to be focusing a lot on your professional experiences, your skills, and your expertise. Now, on the opposite side, a CV or a curriculum vitae, we say that a lot with our doctoral candidates. And a CV is very flexible in length. A typical CV format, I would usually see about 3 to 4 pages. However, there's been some CVs that I've evaluated that are up to 30 or 40 pages, just depending on the skills and experiences of that particular applicant. And typically CVs tend to focus more on academic achievements, published letters, lectures, things of that nature. So again, in looking at master's degree programs, typically you see the resume. But if you're considering applying for a doctoral program, then a CV might be what's in order. And as I mentioned before, when I share with you a resume template, if you would like to see a CV template as well, I'm more than willing to share that with you. So let's go through kind of what I consider the components of a perfect resume. Again, this is your way of kind of telling your story. But one of the things that you want to make sure with the resume is that you're keeping a consistent format. And this is where those of you who are grammarians or do your best spell checking after you sent something, this is where we can get a little nitpicky on things. And so as you're thinking about creating your resume, and again, this is your first impression, make sure that your formatting is consistent. For example, when you write a sentence or a bullet point in your resume, at the end, are you using a period, for example? When you write your bullet points, and we'll go through a few examples of this, are you using action verbs? These are things that are demonstrating what you've done. And of course, when you're giving examples of these, when you write your bullet points, we want to make sure that you are talking about what you've actually accomplished. And so, for example, if you're saying something like, I worked with an NGO out in the field somewhere, that might be a very basic statement that you could write, but if possible, perhaps quantify that experience. So, for example, if you say, worked with 3 NGOs on a $4 million grant to administer water projects in South Africa or something like that. So now you're starting to go from a very vague description to something a little bit more specific where you quantify. And on your resume, as you're considering the sections to include, these are the main ones that I think are probably most valuable. And again, this is just from my experience. Resumes can vary. Again, I'll share a template with you. But as we look at the resume format, again, at the top, you're putting your most broad and general information. So for any phone numbers that you put on there, especially for our international applicants, make sure to include your country code in there. And then one little tip that I always like to include with your phone, pay close attention to your voicemail. Because if a selection committee needs to reach out to you for additional information and they call that phone number, they want to know that they've reached the person that they're intending to. So make sure that your message has something relevant and has sort of one item that I get asked a lot is professional summary, put it in there or not put it in. And this is optional. I think our colleague Keough mentioned in the application materials, follow the instructions. And so sometimes application committees will include a template that they want you to use and might say, please provide a professional summary. Others may not. And so this is kind of up to you. For your education, make sure to list all of the educational experiences that you've had, not just the name of the university or college that you went to, but also the location and the degree, and of course the GPA. Again, in the U.S. context, typically we're looking for a GPA equivalent out of 4.0 scale. Probably the largest section of your resume is going to be the experience section. So this is what you've done. This could be both professionally, say after you graduated from university, or it could be major projects or internships that you did while there. Leadership things, extracurriculars, and volunteers. You can include those. My suggestion for this section is to put things in reverse chronological order. So at the top of your experience section should be your most recent experience. And then as you go to the bottom, it's the least recent. And then typically the last section there is kind of your skills and interests. And this is where you can kind of tout some of the maybe computer programs that you've been using, like R or SCADA. Maybe you're into coding and know some languages as well. And of course, there's other languages that you might be speaking or writing in. Honors, research interests, which are particularly important for our doctoral candidates out there. As I mentioned before, within your resume, we want you to be as consistent as possible. So as I mentioned, at the end of sentences, are you using periods or not using periods? Just stick with one. Pick either if you're going to use them or not. I tend to not use them, and so I just have to make sure that I'm consistent with that. When you're writing things down like dates, make sure that you're using the same format for them. Are you using all numeric, or is it a combination with the letters and the numeric? Also, spacing within the resume. That's just something to be mindful of. Are you using the same kind of spacing? And of course, the alignment, on the left side and the right side. Is it jagged or is it nice and clean? Again, we like that consistent format. For font and font sizes, it can vary. Again, follow the instructions that the application committee is giving. I typically default to Times New Roman. 12-point font is fine. 11 is good. Don't go any lower than 11. I've heard a few selection committee members say, my eyesight is not as good as it used to, so I can't read a 10-point font. So, all right, so real quickly, I just kind of want to go over the experience section where you might be writing bullet points about your experiences. And so kind of want to walk you through a good, better, best scenario for writing bullet points. So here is an example of someone who was a teaching assistant for the mechanical engineering course. They graded papers and quizzes. So that explanation gets to the point and gets it done. However, to make it a little bit better, remember I mentioned about quantifying your skills and experiences. So in this particular example, now we've taken that and said, oh, how many sections of that mechanical engineering course? Oh, it's 4 sections. And we know what type of student. It's freshmen and sophomores in a particular class, fluid dynamics. So now we're, as a reader, we can kind of put you in that place and better understand what this experience is. It's not just vague, but actually it's a little bit more thought out. And then if you want to get even more quantified, now you can start talking a little bit more about the lesson plans. How many students in these 4 sections did you include? And that last bullet point there is, what was the outcome of this experience? Because sometimes people just want to know, okay, so you were a teacher assistant, but what did you accomplish in that? And here in this example, this particular applicant is talking about how they achieved an exemplary rating for that. And lastly, I've been presenting on a resume format typical for U.S. style applications. So a few tips and tricks of things not to include on a resume is typically we're not looking for anything that is of a personal nature. So don't include pictures on there. We don't need marital status, date of birth, religion, information about your parents. And of course, unless you've achieved a terminal degree, which is a doctor, do not include that. And real quickly, just a few examples of resumes that I have seen over the years, of examples of things perhaps not to do. Here is an example where someone has decided to use up most of that valuable real estate space with just putting the word resume up there. We know what it is. But again, the resume is your opportunity to present yourself for the first time. And so we want you to use that space to talk about your skills and experiences. And of course, this person put their birth date down as well. In this one, while it does have the different sections that we're looking for, it is still kind of vague. We don't know anything about this particular candidate beyond just what they did. None of their experiences are quantified. So just real quickly wanted to show you 2 different examples of that. And again, just to finish off, this is kind of the format that we're looking for. 5 or 6 sections, it flows really good, has good bullet points, formatted consistent. So again, as I mentioned, if you would like these slides, if you would like a template of either the resume or CV format, for your resume and CV writing enjoyment, I'm more than welcome to share those with you. And again, my name is Christian Lehman, and I'm from the University of Notre Dame, and I recruit for a master's program and a PhD program. All right, I will turn it back over to you, Elle.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you all. I see some questions have already been answered from Ludovica. Christian, did you want to add a few words about the specific Masters of Global Affairs at the University of Notre Dame?
Yeah, so I recruit for a Master of Global Affairs and a PhD in Sustainable Development. Our Master of Global Affairs program has 3 majors. So we have International Peace Studies, Sustainable Development, and Governance and Policy. So our cohort size, just to give people a little understanding of how many we bring in, our cohort size is about 45 students. Last year, we had 42 that were able to attend, and of those, only 6 were from the U.S. So we certainly put the global in global affairs. It's almost like a mini UN around here. We have a student from almost every country. And that's also reflective, not just in the students, but also in the faculty that we have. I know one concern that our international applicants might have is funding. So our International Peace Studies program is a fully funded program. So that's the full scholarship, full stipend. And in addition to our Peace Studies program, those students go on a 6-month internship. They pick an organization anywhere in the world, and we fully fund that experience for them. For our other 2 majors, they go on an 8 to 10 week field experience between the summer of their 1st and 2nd year. And we partner them with a partner organization, the Oxfam or Catholic Relief Services. And so they have to go to several places around the world to collect the data for their project. And again, that's also a fully funded experience as well. So